Meta Perspective Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Meta Perspective Podcast. We're your hosts, Alex.
Evan.
And the girl. This is the show where we talk about interesting and deep topics that we all think about but never really talk about.
We are streaming on YouTube here. We're looking for new subscribers, so definitely give the channel a follow if you are joining for the first time. We got a chat up here, so if you guys want to join in the conversation, have anything to add to what we're talking about, we can see it and respond to it live. And we also eventually will reintroduce the call line that we have, so you guys will be able to call in if you feel so bold, because we want to hear what you guys think, and we want your input, because Meta Perspective Podcast is not meta
without your perspective.
But yeah, tonight we're going to be discussing truths and lies. Yes.
And lies and truths.
But yeah, we've been doing this show for a while now. We used to stream on Twitch, and we recently, have been trying to revamp our YouTube channel. We just renovated the studio. It's looking pretty nice. So yeah, we appreciate you guys. If you are viewing this right now, please give us a subscribe if you like the content. We will be doing some subscriber giveaways and stuff like that in the future. So yeah, stay tuned for more awesomeness for Meta Perspective Podcast.
Yeah, got some big things coming.
But yeah, so I guess to start off tonight's topic, there's been a lot of, political turmoil and just a lot of stuff going on with elections and, misinformation and all this stuff. It's kind of roped into one big ball of uck. And, I think, normal people just kind of want to live their lives and they want a good quality life, and they want, friends and family around. And, there's certain things that people just enjoy that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in the outside world. So it's hard to really kind of care or be very invested in that kind of thing without actually doing anything substantial. So I feel like what most people kind of get into is this mentality of, just trusting other outside sources that they deem, respectable or something like that, something that's trustworthy to them, and they just kind of take the perspectives from that source, and that's how they feel. And that's, every side of the coin, basically. And, with that kind of, feed, it introduces the opportunity to, lie and say things that aren't true and all that. And that's kind of what we've seen with the misinformation and all that stuff. And kind of the, I think, unwarranted censorship of actual just people saying things that kind of go against the narrative, or like the, what you shouldn't say kind of thing. And that's kind of a troublesome idea. But, ultimately at the end of the day, there seems to be some kind of wide spreading, it's like a list of talking points or certain phrases that come up from all these different people, and it seems to be very coordinated. And you're like, oh, well, they're all saying the same exact phrase at the same exact time and making the same point. So, you can see that there is an attempt to kind of create a truth, or this is what we all believe. Everyone that you get your information from, we all think this, so you should too, kind of thing. And that's what it was for, several years, probably the past couple years. And until maybe the last year or two, definitely post-COVID, there was kind of a reckoning around free speech and your right to say things that may or may not be true, that kind of thing. But, what we've been sold as truth is starting to erode at the foundation, and we're starting to see the lies that have been piled on top of each other in order to create this truth. And it's starting to be, a bit disturbing for most people. And I think that, in a lot of ways, most people have lost trust in institutions, corporations, governments, leaders, things like that. And, it's not easy to earn trust back. But at the same time, it's like, some things either has to change or the real truth has to come out in some way. And I feel like what is happening is you have independent media, independent people that are actually, looking into the stuff, exposing things, doing kind of guerrilla, hidden camera journalism and stuff like that. And the lies are starting to come out. And, it's threatening. It's threatening to the people that are lying. So you have a crackdown on free speech and censorship and all this, and it all builds up to where we are now, which is basically, I don't believe a damn thing that I'm told anymore, or at least I'm skeptical of everything, So, the same sources and organizations or places that we would get information from before are now basically, in a lot of ways, illegitimate.
Yeah.
So who's the real source? And that's kind of the doorway for them to be like, oh, well, just because this person, he doesn't work for a news organization. James O'Keefe, whatever he does with his hidden guerrilla journalism, that's not real. It's not real journalism. It's like, well, they're on camera saying it, so it's not really journalism. It's just somebody saying something, and it's not really a lie because it's them saying it.
Yeah.
So you can't argue with that.
Yeah. I think that's a big problem with media now too, and news and the legacy media, the trusted sources, that we grew up with, is what a lot of people struggle with is these are the sources telling us that these other sources are illegitimate. And while this looks like some damning evidence, this looks really bad, it sounds like what this person is saying is exactly what all of you have been worried about. But we're going to tell you it's just not true. It's not the context. These people are illegitimate. So when you see the mainstream media do something, like the trusted media do something that is false or is a lie, and you don't see them, come on, and when you don't see them really cover their mistake, they don't come out and say, we were wrong, let us educate you on what was right.
Right.
Instead, they just pretend it didn't happen, and they don't educate you. It's like, for example, like the Hunter Biden laptop. That's an example of during an election, when information like that got out, that's something that could change a lot of voters' opinions.
Yeah.
Might sway their decision entirely. So to say this is not real, for everybody to come out saying this is not real information, this is disinformation, it's from Russia. But you cannot educate me on how you know it's from Russia. You can't educate me on, how it's disinformation, and these pictures I'm seeing are not like real. Like, even if it's like, are these not real photographs? And are these not real emails and stuff? So when you ask these questions and then it comes out that it was real and that it had nothing to do, that Russia didn't have anything to do with it, that for me makes me say, okay, well, I trusted that this wasn't a real source, that these sources weren't legitimate and the information was not correct. But to find out that all of these trusted sources were without any evidence telling me it's from Russian disinformation, when later you find out, the laptop we had, the pictures you saw and the emails we had, actually all that stuff, we actually did get it from that laptop that we said we had. And that's the idea. It's like, so you did have it.
It was real.
So it's like, it was real. It was there. So the rumor of this laptop came from the physical laptop. And then we were told that none of it was true. You easily could have verified that. No, we have it. It's right there.
Yeah.
It was an easy thing to verify. So now, get out of there. He's literally gonna bury like a mole.
This is our resident
It's our mascot.
mascot, Polo.
He's learning how to be a mascot. He comes from a sports team, and he's always trying to amp up the crowd, but he needs to learn to be on a podcast and sit and stare. It's different here. We have different mascot rules.
Just to pick you back up, though, I mean, yeah, you're right. They said this was a lie. This is misinformation. It's Russian. They made up a lie to hide the truth that they already knew. And I think that's the most damning thing about it. It's like, you could be somebody who doesn't care what's on the laptop.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, you can't be somebody that doesn't care that they lied about it. Like, whether that helps your side or your ideology or not, like, if there's some shady shit going on and there's a cover-up, people should know about that. I mean,
it's every feel-good sports movie. When the team is caught cheating and they all come together and say, you know what, we're going to throw this for the other team because they're the ones who deserve to win because we cheated. We don't deserve it. That's how everybody should feel. Yeah, I support my side, but if I found out my side was lying and manipulating me to try to win, I would be like, my side's still good though, right? Like if we're the good guys, why do we need tricks?
Yeah.
Isn't everybody good? If we're all good and we all want the best for each other, then where does the animosity come? Where does the lying come? Like, it should be very easy. Like, hey, this is the honest truth. We all want to make more money. We all want better health care. We all want more food, even though we're already fat. We want more. Like that. Like we all want everybody to be treated equal and enjoy their time in this country and feel loved and have unity. That's what we all collectively, for the majority, that's what we all want.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do you need to lie to sell that?
Yeah.
Where, like, that's my whole thing is if you're the media and you're trusted and you're here to tell me what they won't, why are you lying to me? You're supposed to be on my side telling me what they're not lying to cover up all the stuff you haven't told me they've been saying.
Well, I think that's kind of part of it too. Is that the I haven't told you part? It's the lies by omission. It's highlighting certain things to the extreme that make them seem real, even though they're not based on any foundational truth. And then the things that are like undeniably true, when that stuff is exposed by people outside of that realm that want to kind of control what people see and what people think, well, it's an obvious thing is that you don't talk about it. You don't look into it. You don't bring on guests to talk about it. You just say something about it for 5 minutes and then you go back to your normal propaganda.
Yeah.
It's like, so, people like, there's been times.
I want to say a good example I heard from Cat Williams was how when, because he's more outspoken on certain things, as everybody's seen, compared to somebody like Will Smith, who really just plays his part in the media.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't stir the pot. Cat Williams, he tipped the pot over.
Yeah.
So when you look at somebody like Will Smith slaps Chris Rock on television, still gets an award. Everybody's like, we don't really know what to do because he's such a good guy and he's so blah, 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 and this and that. And it just takes over social media and it's everywhere. Well, but the whole thing was he got slapped for telling a joke, and that was why it was in the news. He told a joke, and because of that joke, he got assaulted for it. That's why it exploded. Everybody was like, nothing,
Yeah.
We should be outraged because you should be able to say what you want, even if it's a joke, at a comedy thing. So Cat Williams came out and was like, everybody was obsessed with that. But during one of Cat Williams' stand-up things, he told a joke and somebody pulled a gun on him. And that's one of those things you'd probably never heard of that. No. Of Cat Williams having a gun pulled on him for a joke he told. But it's only because it's a celebrity and he got slapped, obviously, is why it's going to be huge. But they don't cover certain stories. You never hear about, it should be like, hey, across the board, we should all be able to say what we want. Yeah, some things will hurt your feelings and might get you slapped, Yeah. That's how it is. There may be repercussions. He may get an assault charge. But if that's how he feels, then he can do that as a retaliation if he wants to. It's kind of the same idea, It's we have to find that. What else am I trying to point? We have to find that balance. You know what I mean? Of truth and fiction.
I mean, that's kind of like a It's like a, hey, look over here, blah. Somebody, some celebrity slapping another. Ooh.
Yeah, to me,
don't look at what we're doing.
It's the
here.
the truth versus the lies. It's like, to me, I look at it as, okay, we should all be able, just like Chris Rock. If the argument is, we should all be able to, on stage, express ourselves however we want. If you don't like that, you can get your money back. You can leave. But I have the right to be on the stage and do this. If that's the message that we're getting with this, then I need consistency. If somebody shoots at Chris Rock for the same thing, it should blow up and be like, whoa, this is not okay. Yeah. We all need to get on board that it's not okay. We all get a voice on stage. And that should be the message that rings out. Instead, the message is celebrities. And it's like, okay, so there's no heart to, there's no moral in the story, really, other than just get hyped up about the story. And that's kind of what news has turned into, is, in my opinion, is calling everything fake, but then giving you no meat as to why it's fake, and then really just hyping everybody up on the stories and not educating you on the heart of the story. What's the moral here? What's the point of the story you covered?
Yeah.
It's like they just go over stuff. You'll get mad and you're like, but wait, what does that mean? Yeah. Like, is this a good thing? Are we in this? We're in another country. Is that good or bad? What are we doing there? Yeah. I'm mad, but I'm not sure why. They just hyped me up. Like, we spent money and did stuff, but maybe that was a good thing. I'll figure out if I'm mad later. Like, I need more information.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to be mad.
I'm ready to look at my phone and be distracted now.
I'm so ready to be mad and talk to all my friends about this for weeks while everything gets passed under my nose. And
well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely like
that when I'm 80.
In 75 years, when Pfizer finally releases their their documents, yeah, I'll probably die of a heart condition before then. But no, so yeah,
10 years tops.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a spin on like most things now. So, whatever the event that happens, you're getting the spin version, which, okay, whatever, fine. But like, if you're purposely leaving out things that don't work with your spin, like that's what we've been dealing with. It's basically like, we're going to spin this our way as much as we can, and we're going to ignore everything that goes against it. And it's just like, at a certain point, it becomes like brain garbage for most people. Like we talked about earlier in the beginning of the show, it's like most people don't have a reason or a drive to like go research shit. It's like nobody does that. So they find people that they trust, and then they listen to them. So that when the people that they trust say a certain thing, then they're gonna like basically like die on that hill to like repeat and defend that thing. It's fucking crazy. I don't understand it. Like, I'm a very skeptical person. Even if somebody that I trust tells me something, if it seems shocking or if it seems something that's not believable, then I'll figure that, like, I will look into it. I'll figure out if that's true or not. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But like, I feel like separated from that idea. But like, most people just aren't that way. They just kind of want. I mean, it takes effort to like fucking.
Yeah, they're supposed to be, especially on the left side, there's supposed to be levels of tolerance, of understanding, of everybody's different. And it's not supposed to just be physical race. It's not just supposed to be the physical things that separate us, because what brings us, what we have in common, we have a lot more in common than we do that separates us.
Yeah.
So what everybody's focused on when it comes to equality and like treating everybody equally is all physical. And it's like, no, you don't treat somebody equally because they're a different color. Saying that sounds shady. Just, they're black, they should be treated the same. Like, no shit. Why are you saying, like, why are you implying that it's like, well, they don't though? Why are you implying that? Like, they're a human being. That's what I see. Maybe that was the perspective of they're a different color, so we should treat them equal. Yeah, people were saying that a long time ago. We're past that.
Yeah.
We don't really go with the color thing anymore. We understand that we're all human. We're all American. And for that reason, we're united. And we're united under this one understanding. We are all human. We are here together. We're all in the same country. Like, this is America where we can be whoever we want to be.
Yeah.
And then people will argue, well, that's the problem. The problem is a lot of people don't want people to be who they want to be. It's like, yeah, that's part of it. That's part of the tolerance and understanding is that, well, what about the people who don't accept this ideology? Well, they're Americans too. And even though I don't agree with them and you don't agree with them, we all agree under one thing. And that's that we agree that they're allowed to disagree with us. They're allowed to be upset. They're heavily outnumbered in their perspective, but they have the right to have that perspective. Just like you want to dress up as a penguin and walk around the neighborhood when it snows. Like, that's fine. Just don't walk through my yard.
Sounds fun.
As long as you're on the sidewalk, that's cool. You have the right to do that, even though I think that's a weird way to spend a day off. I just think that's what it's all about, is what unites us all together and allows us to be who we want. That's what we all surround under. It should be a spiritual thing. Is I don't understand a lot of people, but I want them to be able to express themselves however they want so that I can be... so that I can experience that variety of what is human nature. It's interesting. It's a learning experience for me too. I don't want everybody to be just like me.
Yeah.
It would be boring. But that's the idea, is saying that everything should be forced and kind of sold and given to us, while at the same time it's like, well, everybody's different. We all need to surround around just the one thing of just be what you want to be and let us all experience each other as we go through life. It shouldn't be a forced thing of we all look at people and say, let's get rid of racism. Well, you can't. It's America. Some people want to be racist.
Yeah.
That's part of tolerance and saying, I don't agree with you. I don't stand by what you stand by, but I love you. And if that person's like, well, I hate you, that's fine. I love you because that's my beliefs. I love you because you're an American. You're one of my brothers. If you hate me for the way I look, that's fine, because you're allowed to. And that's why I love you, because you are who you are here. And you're happy to be who you are. That's fine. Now, if you start swinging at me because you don't like who I am, well, I'm going to start swinging back. It's America, It's about the human experience and allowing us to experience it the way humans experience it.
I mean, yeah, like, you're describing like a conflict from disagreeing at odds kind of perspectives. And that's basically what we have now, is just like total conflict from this truth versus that truth versus this truth. And it's all, everyone's, fighting to preserve their sense of reality or fucking
and that's
whatever.
the problem. Very few of those truths actually affect the majority.
Right. And what I was going to say is, like, for all the people that are kind of like, oh, well, all these conspiracy theorists and all that, but it's like, if you see kind of how we've been lied to for so long over so many different areas of life, then yeah, if you totally distrust everything that's been told to you by all these sources, then you're gonna look for the conspiracy, or like that. It's creating like having this control over what is truth and what can be censored and what's misinformation, all that. It's creating conflict. It's creating mistrust and crazy people that have conspiracy theories or that want to go like murder people, drive over people with cars or shoot up schools and shit like that. It's like, that's kind of what it's like. Yeah. If you could kill baby Hitler, blah, 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 or like if you could kill Hitler back in time, it's like, yeah, that's why you try to assassinate Trump, because it's like people believe he's Hitler. And so it's like,
Yeah, no,
It makes it justified.
That's a large aspect too. You know, another thing that bothered me was when they tried to assassinate Trump the first time on television. All the media was coming out saying like, oh, like, kind of downplaying it.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like allegedly and all that type stuff. But there was a lot of stuff kind of downplaying it, kind of like, oh, you know, people are saying it's this, but, you know, let's not jump to conclusions. Almost always the media jumps to conclusion, and they just throw out the craziest story, and then later they're like, okay, well, we got most of the stuff wrong. Okay, so he didn't run into the school with an AR-15. It was a pistol.
Yeah.
We're not really going to recover all this. You guys heard the original story. Believe that.
They say the original story for like the first couple days or first week, and then they do the apology or the correction like a week later. One time.
And nobody, but nobody sees it.
Yeah, nobody sees it.
So it doesn't get spread.
Yeah.
The only thing that gets spread is the story that they keep covering every 3 hours, and that's the idea. Is when you're being fed all of this stuff, and then being told this guy is bad, and then being like, everybody on the right's like, you have to stop saying this is a bad guy and comparing him to Hitler because people are trying to kill him. You have to stop doing that. So instead, they go, oh, apparently shots were fired. Allegedly, shots were fired at a rally. It's like, it's very obvious somebody took shots at him.
Yeah.
It's clear it was an assassination. But instead, they're like, no, it was like maybe a shot was fired there. You know how those Republicans get real excited, start popping their guns off. And it's like, but the idea of what they're selling, again, the argument I hear from everybody is, well, the reason the media does that is because it's ratings. It's what sells. I said, and I was arguing with somebody about this. I said, so don't you think it's weird if it's all ratings, like, and it's not about deception, it's just about ratings, why weren't all the left's headlines, someone tried to assassinate Trump? Like, I didn't see that for hours.
Yeah.
It was, if the first day they really weren't using the word assassination too much. They were kind of like, allegedly shots were fired at a Trump rally.
Yeah.
That's not a big headline. You know, someone tried to actually murder former President Trump. That's something that is going to grab all of your viewers that, you know, if you're MSNBC, why would, hey, somebody tried to kill Trump? Why would that not be the big one?
Yeah.
Nobody on your side likes Trump. This is a story that's going to explode.
Yeah.
If it's about ratings, why downplay what is probably your biggest story of the year? I mean, that's what I don't understand, is where's the consistency? If it's not lies, it's not manipulation, to lead me to a certain perspective and understanding of a certain narrative. If that's not the goal here, what is? Because over and over I analyze this stuff and I'm like, well, it's not ratings. Because if it was ratings, there's a lot of stories that they just don't cover. And it's like, well, that might make the other person look better. It's like,
I mean, dude, like,
it's like, what does that have to do with
this
truth?
is speculation, but like, maybe some of these media companies, maybe they make like, I don't know how much money. Let's say it's like hundreds of millions of dollars a year or something, right? But like, if someone just was like, hey, I'll give you $2 billion to say whatever the fuck you want. Don't worry about ratings. Kind of, have the facade of advertising, have it on your tax dollars and, like your tax forms and all that. I'm going to pay you guys as much money as you want to say whatever the fuck I want. It's like, well, yeah, in a failing industry where you have nobody that really, is capturing people's attention, then yeah, I would make that deal. All right, bathroom break. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like we're getting into the beginnings of the Orwellian kind of concept where words stop meaning what they mean. War is peace, control is safety, things like that. And it's like, the lies and the manipulation are just one aspect that has a greater lasting effect on all of us and our children and, the future and generations to come. So, it's kind of a slow roll. And we've been hit with a lot. We've been hit with a lot of technological advances in the past 10, 20 years to where before, like when I was growing up, when we were growing up, nobody had smartphones. We would basically get, I was young. Didn't necessarily get information from anywhere because there wasn't really, that's why they're called legacy media. It's like, that's where you get your news from.
It was just books, really. Books and newspapers.
Well, that's, now we have,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We can search articles on Google
Yeah.
at the touch of a button, like in 5 seconds versus before. It's like you got to dial up and ding, 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 and then you can maybe like go online and, look up the same media company that you watched on TV and find out about it. But it wasn't independent.
But growing up, things felt a lot more controlled, a lot more stable, and people
like controlled,
like
not like controlled
by the people.
Yeah.
Like it felt like we were managing our communities better. It felt like things were more balanced. So people were okay with waiting until the end of the day to find out what's been happening.
Yeah.
They're like, in this country, this and that. You're like, oh, that's terrible. A woman, was stabbed on a subway. You're like, oh my gosh, like that happens. Like, now it's like,
I've been to DuPont Circle.
you go through your feed. Now you're just like, it's just like another streamer, shot for making fun of somebody in a restaurant. You're like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, your normal stabbings and muggings don't really make the headlines. It's the crazy stuff like driving over people with a car through a parade, or or truck attacks, whatever that means.
Yeah, before it's like you'd wait till the end of the day, and the crazy stories would be like there was 3 crazy stories today. You're like, wow, those are crazy. Now it's like it's so much, and it's so much more than what you'd hear on the news. It's like you wouldn't that would be like a major story back when I was like 5.
Yeah,
everybody be talking about that. Like, holy shit, somebody drove through a parade. Like, what a psycho. Like the stuff happened, but it did happen, but it's like it was that big of a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's not. It's like you hear it and people are like, oh, that's terrible. Like people have been doing that for a while, the past 10 years, just driving through places. So it's like you just get numb to it, because you're fed it so much. And then the rest of your feed is like, by the way, Russia might attack next week. This time it might actually happen. You're like, oh my God. And it's like somebody drove through a Christmas parade. You're like, yeah, I think North Korea is going to attack too. Let me get back to the next article. It's just everything is so much more intense, and it's every 10 seconds. It's
yeah.
It's no wonder that people can't actually research and find out if things are true, and why people gravitate to a news source that just tells you the meat. This is what you need to know. Okay, well, how did you find this out? They're like, this is what you need to know. You don't need to know how we came to the conclusion or our sources or any of the stuff. This is what you need to know. Get back on your phone now. You're caught up. And you're like, okay, great. Yeah. I like this news. I didn't have to read anything.
And I feel like it's very much like, there's no rear view mirror viewing at this point. It's like, something like the Trump assassination, right? So here we have this guy, Thomas Crooks or whatever his name was. They know where he lived, they know where he worked, they basically know a lot about him. He was in a BlackRock ad as a kid in fucking high school, so they know where he grew up, and they know his parents, all that. So there's psychological profiling, there's information on this guy, what he did on a day-to-day, what he did leading up to the assassination attempt. But we almost know more about that guy that shot the United Healthcare dude, like the Luigi, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like we know more about him, within 3 days. So it's like, wait. I mean, I know he's still alive, so that makes it a little different. But still, it's like, okay, well, we all still wanted to know what happened when the Trump thing happened, but what happened?
Yeah.
You know, like what was the shooter's motivation, or what was the school shooter's motivation? What did that manifesto say? It's stuff like that where it's like, you know, we just want to be told the truth initially, but it takes some time because people are they're quick as fuck to jump to the gun and make the headline and make all the shocking news and say all these things that aren't true or that aren't verified, and then, you know, nobody does the work to follow up. And when you do follow up, you know, when something comes out like a couple months later, there's not a big like, hey, wait, we finally found out about that thing, because now there's the next thing. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, there's nobody like saying like, hey, remember that thing you guys are all concerned about? This is what really happened, and it's pretty fucked up. When that happens, people are basically like, oh, well, we're on to something else now, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no accountability to follow up on the massive or like on the disruptive headlines that come out right when something happens. It doesn't matter what it is. Any big news, disruption, people try to be the first ones to have an opinion and all that. You know, like rile people up a certain way based on whatever they want to achieve, and then they go on to the next thing, and it never comes back. It's a constant stream of, I can't even, like, misinformation pretty much. Like, it's just basically like soft info, you know, it's like bullshit information. It's just bullshit.
Well, it's the quote unquote heart of the idea. This is what happened. This is all you need to know about. It's kind of like the Trump thing. Back in the day when I was growing up, trusted media sources and news and stuff had little side projects where they do follow-ups on things, and like, here's that documentary about that person from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You know, here's the lady who killed her kid, like, or whatever the crazy story was that everybody was following. They would do follow-ups and be like, this is going to be huge for ratings. Everybody's going to tune in to watch the documentary on this person. There used to be a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now people argue like, well, with the Trump thing, you know, there's plenty of documentaries. There's some on Netflix. You can Google them. They're YouTube. Like, that's how it happens now. It's like, the thing is, though, is those trusted sources still put stuff out, but that's not the stuff they do. You know, trying to get to the heart of the story about Trump's attempted assassination, that's not something that you want to do a follow-up piece on. That's not good for ratings.
Right.
Like, that's the best for ratings.
You'd want to be the first. Like, there's so many fucking people out there doing these true crime podcasts who are like, tell me about Joshua Powell, and, you know, all these like serial killers or whatever. And it's like, you find out every single thing about their life. Like, where is that? Because that shit sells, you know? People like that
it's
shit.
huge. There's a
It's like,
giant market.
where is that? You know, where's the person saying, I'm going to profit off of this story because it's good, even if that's the most selfish motive? Why isn't that person there? Because we all want to know the actual truth. But it's like, you know, a lot of times it's like this shit is, oh man, it's crazy. Like, sometimes like local law enforcement will be told from somewhere high up that like, you can't fucking talk about this. Like, lawyers talk to them, like, if you talk about this investigation, we're going to sue the shit out of you. It's going to make a mistrial. You know, it's like, you have people playing legal games in the background that you probably don't know about. And it's like, man, no one can even figure out what's true because the FBI is hiding it behind their desk and going like, me.
Yeah, you get a real video, you put it out.
Out.
Yeah, the media says, well, this person's not a trusted source. So what they posted is out of context. We're going to take down their platform because it's misinformation.
Yeah.
And then, which will stop them from being able to do a follow-up to explain their side of how it's not misinformation. Basically, we're going to tell you they're wrong, and we're not going to give them the chance to refute that to you. So you're going to you're going to just kind of lean in the direction of, well, maybe that was wrong, you know, and maybe I'll just forget about it. And I mean, it's kind of like you said, that quick, fast news cycle of like, okay, well, we're going to tell you the next crazy thing. You just need to know this. We're keeping you updated. And it's it's kind of the idea is you just follow what sounds trusted. Anything else is long-winded explanations. And it's like, well, if this is really going on, you know, why do you have to explain it in this whole thing and blah blah blah? You should be able to just sum it up.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, if it wasn't so complex, I would. If you weren't used to watching 30-second videos every 15 seconds, I could. You know, that wouldn't seem weird.
It's like when you had the televisation of like the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, where it's like, oh, he shot somebody, it was riots, it was self-defense, and he was underage in a different city. It's like, oh, they're gonna show all the footage from that, but then it's like you have the Epstein trial, where it's like more implications for more people, and a lot of them are involved in very high-level institutions and governments and media organizations and Hollywood and all that. They're all involved in it, and they all knew this guy. But that's we're gonna do that trial in secret, and well, you know, the camera was off. We don't know what happened to him. I guess he killed himself.
Well, can you ask the guards that were watching him that day?
Well,
They're dead too. They actually are.
wait, what?
Yeah, the two guards that were in charge of Epstein during that time when
They
the
are
cameras
both
went off.
Deceased at this current moment.
They died like within that year. Both of them. Which
Interesting.
is just like, wow, like your guys' time both came. That's crazy. A major thing happened. You guys were both a part of it, and then it was just both of your time. Like what a coincidence.
I mean, it's not.
Everything in that is a coincidence.
Dude, it's
crazy.
not
What a
hard to
coincidence.
organize that.
Those
We've seen
coincidences.
curious coincidences. But dude, it's not like that's like the shit of movies, man. It's like you get two guards on the inside, and you pay them a bunch of money, and then you tell them to leave the door unlocked and unplug the camera and let some dude in gloves and a fucking mask, and then he shoots, or he like fucking hangs him, and then he goes out, and then the guards are fine, and then 2 days later they get fucking killed because it's like now they know they know what's up. So like we just take out the guards, and then
You get a
all
bunch
this
of money.
due process and all this legal shit that's been the foundation for our country for 200 something years. It's like, oh, we can't do that anymore because he's dead.
Yeah, and as a guard, you're handed a fat stack of cash. Do you let them go in? They walk out. They say, thank you. Like what you did was a big thing. You don't even know. And you're like, thank you very much. You didn't know they had some shit on their hand. You have 3 days to live. I mean, it's just you see all these things coming out, and it's what was the one? There was one. It was FBI. I forgot. This guy was on a podcast talking about. It was a big guy. I'll remember, but he said one of the things they did to his place that they'd found out was because I guess he was some kind of intelligence, so he figured it out after a little bit that they like raided the home or something like that. While they were there, they painted. It's this. I wish I could remember what it's called. They painted this stuff on the inside of his vents, and it's odorless and colorless. It's invisible, but the toxins from it will slowly kill you. So they were getting sick, and that's how they figured out what was happening.
Like vinyl chloride or dioxin or some shit.
Yeah, something crazy, but it's like that's the kind of stuff where it's like you pass away from this or something unknown, and you're like, well, that's crazy, and they're like, what? And then
his lungs failed, or
that's like 2 weeks later, like, okay, so the autopsy officially is basically gonna be like it was heart failure, and it's like, yes, but why did the heart fail? Was it unhealthy? They're like, no, it was a real healthy heart. Well, how did it fail? They're like, something made it stop. That's what I want to know.
It's like, did you test for radioactive contaminants? Like, well, no, we don't normally do that on an autopsy. Okay, well, it didn't show up on the test then, did it?
But that's the idea.
It's the lies by omission, man. And I mean, if you really sit down and think about it, it's really not that hard to orchestrate a lot of this shit. And I don't mean orchestrate from like a puppet master conspiracy thing, but like, if you wanted to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story, you basically have to be an FBI official, and you call, 10 people, or a couple of the 10 people that own these CEOs like Zuckerberg and, fucking the Google thing or whatever.
The
It's
BlackRock
like,
guy.
yeah,
who
it's like media
controlled the kid who
organizations
shot
and
at
all
Trump.
this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can easily get all those people in a video call without much time or notice, and then they all make a decision, and then all across the world, we start hearing the same things from the same people. And it's like, it's not really that, it used to be like, oh, no one really says Illuminati anymore. It's like the old, like, the Pope and the priests, they all are drinking blood underneath the Vatican. Like, oh, we'll
It is a
take
stigma.
control of the peasants.
That's an ancient stigma to it.
Yeah.
Like globalist definitely has a more like, oh, it's an agenda to basically rule the globe. It's global government.
Yeah, but now it's like it's a lot easier than it was for those like Illuminati days kind of people. Now it's just they all just fucking hang out and go to Epstein Island together and talk about how they're gonna fucking enslave humanity. It's like this shit is very obvious to me now.
Yeah.
And
it's always been around all throughout history.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a new thing. This is one of the oldest things. It's like show me one society throughout history besides America where people were fully free but had the defense to protect that freedom. Like it's happened maybe a few times, but like never successfully.
Yeah, like maybe like like the Romans or the Greeks or something. Like what we based all of our government on. It's like
it's human nature. Who wants to play politics? Who wants to play Monopoly on a global level instead of hanging out with their kids? Instead of going to the park, playing video games, instead of just running out and stimulating yourself and experiencing nature, going on a hike, going camping, going fishing. Like who would rather just grind nonstop to create just a multi-billion-dollar empire? Like typically those types of people are people who are somewhat dissociated.
Well,
They're
yeah,
just like
you can have everything you want.
Yeah, it's like I'm not worried about other people. I'm worried about me.
Yeah.
It's like typically those people who get into those places of position because it's stressful. Most good people don't want that stress. They don't choose that stress. It's people who are excited by that stress who do that. And the way you get excited by that type of stuff is you have to have some kind of distance. That's why Elon Musk is interesting, is because his whole approach is the opposite. It's I genuinely care. That's why I don't really keep things for me.
Yeah.
That's why
he's an open source guy.
Yeah. And that's his whole thing is like, I want to challenge the world. I'm challenging myself. And there's a difference between I'm just going to conquer the world and I'm going to conquer myself.
Yeah.
Conquering myself means if I already think I'm the greatest and I'm beating everybody in technology, let me put my technology out there. Let me catch you guys up. Let me see if you can pass me up. So I have a challenge. I need you guys to keep pushing me. And that's how you do it. You don't, if you have a best friend, you're not going to sit there and talk your friend down every time your friend does something successful. You're going to hype him up to push harder so that you have something to challenge. So that when you pass that person up, when you pass your friend up, you go, hey, I just did that too. I did it in half a year. And they're like, damn, and you did it more successfully. It's like, yeah, this is how I did it. Let me share my stuff so you can figure this out. You can maybe build from what you've already accomplished. And then you can give me another perspective maybe I don't see where I could double my business the way I did after I saw how you did it. It's about challenging each other to constantly raise that bar for each other. If you're somebody like Elon Musk, there's not a lot of bars that you see around you that need that you haven't already raised.
Yeah.
Or set the standard on. So that's the idea of being open source and challenging yourself versus wanting to basically just conquer the world and be like, I just want everything. I keep it all to myself. I'm the genius. Everybody come to me. I'm the greatest. People who want that kind of admiration, it has negative connotations to your personality, how you view things. You're going to be more more separated from other people. You're not going to have those close connections because those aren't the things you took time building.
Right.
Well,
and think about somebody like.
So it's very obvious.
I'm gonna use George Soros
likely,
as an example.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the boogeyman.
That's
or
a
whatever.
great example.
But like for in reality, he doesn't do anything illegal. So it's like you have somebody. Okay, so this comes into a moral dilemma and like a real world dilemma too, because who's to say that one man should have the right to influence all of the rest of the world, right? But if you are that one man and you have the money, you can basically experience anything you want. And that's, you probably have. And that's why you see probably a lot of people hanging out at Epstein Islands, because they've done everything else and they want to dabble in fucking underage rape and sex and shit. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
so that, you know, to me is like, it makes sense from like, you know, if you're the man that has everything, what the fuck do? You do some weird shit. But so like, you know, but beyond that, it's like, if you have all the money in the world and you can like use that money to influence the world and like actually make material changes based on whatever you want, it's like, that shouldn't be right, man. That's like one person's influence on how they think the world should be.
But again, that's
forced on all of us too.
But that's how they got the money. They got the money,
right, like,
not thinking about other people.
The money
so now
allows you nowadays to be able to do that.
But if I have,
maybe it used to before, but like not to the extent that it does now. And now it's like so much easier to just have money and overthrow governments.
Oh yeah, and that's what a lot of people don't get. They go, well, how come these giant corporations and these rich people, how come they're not giving their money to the less fortunate? They could change the world doing that. It's like, because that's not how they got it. They didn't get their money by being philanthropists who created new irrigation systems in Africa.
Yeah.
That's not how they did it. They did it by stepping over other people, by seeing a competing business and driving them into the ground so that there was no competition. Destroying that man's livelihood is how he started.
Yeah.
So when he got to the top and he made that money, he didn't think, well, now that I have all this money and I've accomplished everything, I'm just going to give it away and I'm going to start over again.
I'm going to go take advantage of those Africans.
Yeah, because he's not challenging.
I'm going to pay them nothing.
Yeah, he's not challenging himself. He's challenging the world. When you look at the world as holding you back, you challenge it and you fight against it. And once you have that kind of money, it's still you against the world. When the world goes, hey, give us some of that money, you go, you guys didn't help me. That's not how I got here. You get here the way I did. Put yourself first. Which, again, is one of those things. It's a perspective thing. You know, put yourself first by loving yourself. Don't put yourself first because of pain. You know, I have to run from the pain, make all this money
because of greed and all that.
And that's why you see people like Soros, who's like, yeah, I've destabilized some countries with my business deals and this and that, but it is what it is. It's business. He doesn't care what he's done or how big of an impact his moves on the board make. And that's what people don't get, is when you get to that level, it's not just, you know, I have all this money, what else could I do that I haven't done? It's the fact that humans keep humans in check. And when you have that kind of money, that kind of power, you have enforcers around you strapped to the nine, you're not going to, you don't have humans challenging you. So as a result, nobody's keeping you in check. If you're not surrounded by your peers, feeling like you're on the same level as them, and understand I can't do certain things because it's socially unacceptable and wrong. Well, what if you only focused on you and what you wanted? And you became a billionaire, and you see billions of people complaining that they're not billionaires and telling you this is how the world is. Well, if the world is this way, how come I'm successful, you're not, and who I am is all you complain about or all you want to be? There becomes a level where you separate yourself from people and they can't keep you in check because you've outgrown them on a level of status. To a point where if you can't relate to other people, how can you say the same morals and rules would apply to you?
Yeah.
And that's what people don't get. You know, it's not just, I have everything, what else do I want? It's a mixture of that and kind of that godlike, where you start to question, do I have to follow the same rules? I can do anything I want. I have the money to get away with anything I want.
Right.
So if I, want to do some crazy stuff, overthrow a government, get involved with some cartels or whatever, like to double my business, like who's going to stop me? Yeah, people are going to die if I get involved, but
I was just looking up like how much money the poorest country in the world has. And it's like you have individuals with over $100 billion, or maybe like 200 now. I don't know exactly.
easily, yeah.
But it's like, Do we have people that are richer than the poorest countries in the world? I don't know, man. It's crazy shit. We are coming right up on an hour here. And we could probably cut this one off pretty soon, like.
So, what was the poorest country in the world?
I don't know. I was trying to find. It was like showing me GDP, and I think I'm not getting great reception. Let me turn the Wi-Fi on. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry for the delay. Actually,
It's okay.
La Nina, do you have any input? If you could maybe search the poorest country. How much does the poorest country in the world have?
Keyboard ASMR.
It might be hard to find the exact metric, because it's not like there's like a pot of money that each country has.
Yeah.
Here's the list.
Brunudi. Okay, so what GDP per capita? Well, I don't know what that translates to, but either way, yeah. I mean, basically, you have people that are richer than countries now, basically.
Oh yeah. Which is crazy to think that you have more money than an
people are like, "Oh."
entire functioning country.
You could solve world hunger for $30 billion. It's like, well,
No,
you
no,
probably
couldn't.
couldn't. That's like probably like an undershot for sure. But like, yeah, I guess you could do a lot of stuff.
You could set things in
you
motion.
could do a lot of good with $30 billion, or you could do a lot of death with like 80 billion to Ukraine or whatever. Kill a lot of, buy a lot of bombs. Anyway, yeah. So just to kind of close off my thoughts on tonight, yeah, I think the quote unquote truth, as the title suggests, is simply a veil to hide the lies. The real truth is that the world is a fucked up place, and that most people are just looking out for themselves, and the people at the top consider themselves as gods and basically use the world as their playground, and we are their playthings.
Pretty much.
But on a positive note, independent media, independent sources, things like this podcast, give us a follow if you are joining for the first time. And just people thinking for themselves, being able to research shit, film real things with their cameras that everyone has in their pocket. Shit's starting to get exposed, and the house of cards is collapsing. And I'm optimistic that the level of control that we have now is going to get seriously challenged to a point where if maybe things will completely change. I don't know about that, but they'll at least correct, and people will be more aware in the future, so less bullshit can get blasted through to our eyeballs.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is if this falls apart, it's going to go down in history. It's going to be very well documented, better than, I mean, any other records we have through history, just for the fact that we have sources connecting all of us together. So we kind of get a collective view of how this all worked. Insiders, we have the ability to collectively put together the psychological process of how all of this has worked. And I think that's the main thing that stops future problems from repeating. It's people say like, well, you have to understand Nazi Germany so that history doesn't repeat itself. It's like, well, yeah, but how do you know when it's happening? If I'm saying, if one side is saying, well, it's repeating, it's Trump, it's this ideology, I'd have the same argument and say, well, you think that history is repeating itself with Trump because of his ideology. I think history is repeating itself because of how the government is reacting to the people. and how it's separating what are obvious truths that we've been taught in the public school system in this country. You know, things I was taught as a kid, I'm being told now, not were misinformation, but it's like, no, that stuff's wrong. Like all these people on Mount Rushmore are bad. You thought they were good? Well, my school taught me that they were.
Yeah.
You believe the Constitution it shouldn't be infringed upon in any way? You're like, that's what I was taught in school. Like the government taught me that. Like now it's like all these. That's basically all my point is that you have to use common sense. And when you see the media in your country talk about your country, red flag. You know, investigate the stuff. When media is telling you look one way and not the other, look the other way. You know, see what's over there. You know, again, you can't have them consistently attack somebody like Trump, calling him Hitler, and then not explain what he's doing that makes him that to help me understand the threat. If you're going to make that type of claim, draw the parallels.
Yeah.
Because I see the media doing stuff that Nazi Germany actually did.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me is I can explain what I'm seeing through the media taking stories that are proven to be false and using them to gear their side towards other people. Like you're weaponizing people against each other by misrepresenting the story. These are the things they did. Like there's lists of similarities.
Yeah.
But if you're only looking at the person like Trump, you don't see, you're not going to see all the signs I see because you're focused on what they're telling you about that person. Now you're just seeing him that way.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the things to explain, like, tell me how he's Hitler. Well, he just is. It's like you understand that there was seriously sophisticated psychological programming back then. And we're in the future now. Yeah. So it's crazier now. And you really think that after all those years, it's gotten crazier, and now we have the new Hitler, which is Trump. Like it's just crazy to me. Like this,
it sounds far-fetched.
Like with the media, the government, all these corporations being against this guy, you think he's going to pull off some mastermind moves and control the world? Like it's not going to happen. You're being lied to.
Yeah,
everything you're being told. It doesn't hold water.
Hey, we're all gonna make a bunch of money and live in peace.
Yeah.
You know,
enjoy your $30K a year.
Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the Meta Perspective podcast. We stream this usually every Wednesday. At the moment, we will be doing Thursday. We did today, maybe next week. But anyway, thanks for joining us. Join us next time. Meta Perspective podcast.
Out.
Meta Perspective Podcast.